We've got it on full pause here because the Wood Elves roster is like 90% Vanguard now, guys, to be honest, and Ronan is taking great advantage of that against Nurgle's PA. I believe this is actually from a tournament from this new patch, from this last weekend sometime, not 100% sure, as, yeah, I don't think he included in the message. Anyway, let's just go to the builds because this is quite a doozy for the Wood Elves into Skaven. We've got a front line of Dryads here. Orion ready to rock. Blade Captain here. Some Wild Riders with shields. Spellsinger of Beasts. Glade Riders with spears. Wild Riders. To be honest, all these units really had Vanguard before. We don't see any of the new Wildwood Rangers, as expensive infantry is not good against Skaven. It's a death sentence for sure. Spellslinger of Beasts, really surprised Flock of Doom didn't get nerfed in this last patch, but that is what it is. We see also this line of Gut Runners and some Night Runners mixed for Nurgle's PA here, and he's also got some Rat Ogres and Wolf Rats mixed. Dwarf Thing Menace, just a couple of cheap chaff infantry to mix in here. A lot of mobility, Rat Ogres, Skirmish. I kind of like this build. Very dynamic build from the Skaven as well. Throt, newly buffed as well. Yeah, looking pretty good on his stats overall. The one thing I'm not the biggest fan of with Throt is his leadership is really not that good. And that didn't change, but he got some other buffs. Did he also get weapon strength? I think he maybe got a little bit cheaper. He's a solid lord overall. I mean, regeneration, causes terror, only 45 armor and low leadership, but 95 speed for a terror monster as well is pretty good, and his ability set is nice. Of course, summons are always good. Summoning Rat Ogres in particular is pretty strong. Creature Killer now only gives bonus versus large. I don't know, did it get other stuff before? Master Controller. Anyway, he gets into a big engagement here with these couple of Cav, and then on the other side we get a much bigger engagement with the Dryads and Wild Riders moving in to just crush Wolf Rats here. Terror taking hold also, where the Dwarf Thing Menace kind of gets isolated a little bit against some of those other targets. The Night Runners, Gutter Runners doing some nice skirmishing here. They're going to get caught somewhat by the Wild Riders, but yeah, let's see. Some other bodies kind of clogging things up here. Eventually the Gutter Runners do just get fully caught there, which is some value down, but at the same time, Wood Elves also taken some significant losses on that far side. One Wild Rider did manage to survive. So very fast initial kind of engagements on both sides, and now both players kind of immediately moving to the second phase, kind of regrouping, chasing routing units, trying to develop some other engagements here. We do have one more Night Runner out in space. Relatively safe, but Wild Riders crushing those Rat Ogres there. Yeah, basically both players kind of reforming, ready to charge in the other side. Of course, Throt will take quite a long time to kill for the Wood Elves, I would imagine. I don't know. Orion, pretty good melee combatant, obviously. He's a better melee combatant in many ways than Throt, with that innate regeneration, and Throt potentially having some supporting stuff. Yeah, you can see he summons up those Rat Ogres there. Also a Cleansing Ruin, nasty spell from the Skaven, very good. Blob fights like this, it's going to hit Orion and hit these Dryads. No Wild Riders in the area of effect yet, but if they run in, I think they'll be affected by it. These ones at least getting caught up on that chaff to their own benefit momentarily. I don't think it hits units. Well, it does once they moved into the area of effect, so they'll take a little bit of damage from that. A nice Flock of Doom also. These two Night Runners out in space once again. Wild Riders ready to catch them. So Ronan's positioning here in the micro of his light cavalry has been fantastic, which definitely need those things if you're going to be successful with Wood Elves, but might not end up mattering if the Blob fight goes too far against him. Yeah, Throt right now is really taking it to Orion with support. Those Rat Ogres generally performing quite well in a grind against the Wild Riders. Of course, Wild Riders could try and cycle charge them here, but overall, yeah, looking pretty good. Dryads are definitely taking some major damage, and the second Doom Flare has basically taken none, so from an infantry perspective, it's looking potentially rough, but yeah, the Dwarf Thing Menace at least is pretty much eliminated, and most of the skirmish infantry for the Skaven is also done for, or even out of ammunition. I mean, they do go through it pretty quick. Little throwing stars, but Now they can move into combat and help support. A little Blade Rider charge from the side here. Now Ryan continuing to fight against Throt. Get hit by those Rat Ogres. The Blob fight's kind of a little bit of a mixed bag by both sides right now. This is pretty important, though. The Glade Captain and the Spellsinger together kind of snipe the Warlock Engineer. And getting him off the field, super important. Stop that Cleansing Ruin, because that will be potentially devastating, especially with Orion getting low enough to be in the danger zone. He does have Cloak of Ishik to kind of sustain him in this phase, but Throt alone might not have the burst to actually get through it, especially if he's bugging out, not doing attack animations. But with Cleansing Ruin and Throt together, they probably could get through Cloak of Ishik and just finish Orion off here. But instead, Orion's going to pull back. You can see the Spellsinger continuing to chase. Because, of course, Orion has his ranged attack, which he can definitely use to great effect here. So the Glade Captain moves into melee, and I don't think he even needs to use it necessarily. Did he maybe throw one there? I don't think so. Regardless, Blade Captain with their own anti-large moves in to finish the job, and yeah, it was a relatively quick one. I mean, it's kind of to be expected with an aggressive Vanguard rush here from Ronan. Really enjoy that style of play from the Wood Elves. Definitely can shock your opponent and kind of catch him off guard. And Nurgle's PA here having sort of a skirmish-oriented build, just really couldn't deal with the speed, to be honest. Like, he had a lot of mobility of his own, but the mobility is just not of the quality that it's going to trade well generally with Wood Elves mobility. This definitely puts you in a little bit of a tough situation as Skaven in this matchup. But yeah, Throt's okay. We'll talk a little bit more about him in just a minute, but Orion's definitely pretty solid. Also, like, not the best choice, definitely, but very cool choice. And Ronan sent me a bunch of replays with Orion. He's definitely good, don't get me wrong. Not like he's bad, but just Dirthu's insane. Anyway, yeah, Wild Riders here. I'll get some nice value across the board. And just overall, yeah, decent rush execution. Yeah, Throt is decent, like I said. His buffs help, but the main reason why I'm not a big fan of Throt is, well, I guess there's a couple. Number one is that there's a lot of really good Skaven Lords, and Throt doesn't really bring enough to the table to help him kind of stand out. Like, Ikit's Doomwheel obviously is super strong, and you can take Cleansing Ruin on him, Caster and Lord in one. Skrulk also has some nice utility abilities. You know, you've even got like the Grey Seers with Dreaded 13th, their Bell, again, great utility and kind of different spell selections here between Ruin and Plague. You've got I guess you don't actually have Cleansing Ruin, but Dreaded 13th and everything else, you know. Get your summons going if you want to. You can get Warp Lightning. I mean, yeah, just in general, a lot of what Throt can do. Arguably, the Packmaster can do better in your hero slot than opening your Lord slot up for some of those other really good Lords. The fact that running with the Pack is actually a passive and you don't have to, like, forget to use it, unlike the Remoldered, which, I don't know, did he even have Remoldered? It's a pretty strong burst heal, also gives melee attack and leadership, which is definitely nice. But again, just the passive of the Packmaster. The Packmaster also, with a pretty basic kit, can be cheaper, potentially. Whereas Throg, like, if you really wanted, yeah, probably take Creature Killer, the Summon, Remoldered. I mean, why not? Just all of his abilities seem decent, although he does get very expensive for, again, how poor his leadership is base. That Master Controller will give you a +4 to that, but just overall, pretty poor leadership and relatively expensive base cost. I mean, 1,300, it's not crazy by any means, but especially for something that causes terror. But again, got a lot better options in your Lord slot, and you've got other options for terror as well. This guy is only 1,200, so a little bit less expensive. And he is just worse all the way around. HP, a little bit less armor, a little bit even less leadership, attack, defense, weapon strength. But he's a hero also, so if he ends up like getting horribly killed or taking a bunch of damage, it's not nearly as impactful to the rest of your units as potentially losing your Lord might be. But yeah, just in general, I'm a fan of the Packmaster, not really a fan of Throt, even with the buffs. Still think this guy's probably just a better option. But you guys will have to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.